that there were 7 statements that were made by Jesus while he was on the cross. And the most controversial, I guess, and most difficult to understand is that which is found in Matthew chapter 27 and in Mark chapter 15. There Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" We want to talk a little bit about that. I'm sure I don't have all the answers to what this means, but one thing that we do know is that this is a statement that comes from the 22nd Psalm, and in verse 1. In that psalm, David, writing about 1,000 years before these events actually took place, shows that this person that he's talking about is in profound agony. And he goes in that psalm goes from despair to hope and to final victory. I think that helps to explain something about the statement, my God, why have you forsaken me?" The Hebrew writer speaks of this in Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 7. He says, in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications with vehement cries and tears to him who was able to save him from death, and is heard because of his godly fear, and was heard because of his godly fear. Though he was a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. And having been perfected, he became the author of eternal salvation to all who obey him. I think that probably what this passage is saying, what these words were saying, has to do with the fact that for a brief moment in time, God turned his back upon his son, his only begotten son. And in so doing, he allowed the son that he loved so dearly to suffer and die for you and me. In 1 Corinthians 5 and verse 21, the Apostle Paul said, "For he made him who knew no sin to be sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God in him." What a great blessing we have as Christians to be able to say that we are his children and that he was willing to suffer and to die for us, that we might have the hope of eternal redemption. And as we think about these verses, it saddens me to think that we live in a world who does not avail itself of these blessings that we enjoy. And it also saddens me that there are so many people who profess to be Christians who are not willing to avail themselves every first day of the week, partaking of these elements that we're getting ready to partake of, to remember the Lord's death until he comes. Let's not be one that would make that mistake. Jesus suffered and died for us. God was willing to allow that to take place, so much so that he hid his face from him for that brief moment in time. Let's remember these things as we partake of these elements.